This is a video for the section Geometry C of the Geometry module. In this video we're going to be looking at plane shapes. I recommend that you read Geometry C from the textbook because it covers the terminology and definitions for plane shapes. There's no use me kind of boring you going through that. Make sure you know what the different types of polygons are and how many sides that they are, the different types of regular polygons, the different types of triangles and their properties, and then the different kinds of quadrilaterals. Okay, so please go through and read that first. To begin, let's classify each of the following triangles according to their side lengths and their angles. Now if we look at this triangle here, we can see that these two angles are the same. Now if those two angles are the same, it means that those two sides are the same. So we're dealing with here an isosceles triangle. Now the reason why I know it's not an equilateral triangle, you might be saying, oh, but how do you know the third side's not the same? Well, this angle up here is 84 degrees, and an equilateral triangle, all angles are 60 degrees. Okay, so here we're dealing with an isosceles triangle. We could get more technical and say that it's an acute angled triangle as well, because all the angles in there, in that triangle, would be acute. And the reason for that is if this is 84, then these two have to add up to less than 100. Okay, next triangle here. Every side is different, so we're dealing with a scalene triangle. Okay, next triangle ABC, where A is 32 degrees, B is 58 degrees, and C is 90 degrees. You could draw that up if you want. You don't really need to. If that is 90 degrees and that's your angle C, it doesn't really matter which way I label the others, but if I label that A and that B, it means this is 32 degrees and this is 58 degrees. The key though, which is why we didn't really need to draw, is that that's 90 degrees. So that's a right angled triangle. Now because all angles are different, you could also say it's scalene. Okay, let's move on. Find the missing value in each of the following diagrams and give reasons. Okay, well we've got two of the three angles here. We know that a triangle adds up to 180 degrees, so that means that A has to equal 180 minus 81 minus 54. And that's because of an angle sum of a triangle. I'm going to just draw a little triangle there, and that ends up giving me 45 degrees. Okay, next one, you can see that these two sides are equal, so that means that this B has to be 70 degrees because it's a base angle of an isosceles triangle. Okay, so that means B has to equal 70 degrees because of the isosceles triangle. And then our third angle C has to be 180 minus 70 minus 70, which gives me 40 degrees, and the reason for that is angle sum of a triangle. Now you'll notice in your textbook they use the pictures rather than the words. It's up to you what you want to do. I just find it easier to write the words down. Next, okay, so I've got two angles here. So I'm going to find D first, and D is going to be 180 minus 160 minus 10, which gives me 10 degrees. I'm going to write that up here because now I note that these two angles are the same. So I'm dealing with an isosceles triangle. But firstly, reasons for D, angle sum of a triangle. Okay, so now I know that it's an isosceles triangle. I know that this side here has to equal that side there. So E has to be 15 centimetres, and it's because it's an isosceles triangle. Okay, try and get the spelling right too. Okay, next one, bit of algebra involved here. I have one angle and I've got the other two, but they're algebraically formed. But I know all those three sides have to add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so what I can write here is that 70 plus 3f plus f has to equal 180 degrees because of an angle sum of a triangle. Pretty bad triangle there, isn't it? Okay, so now I've got 70 plus 3f plus f is 4f equals 180. I can take 70 from both sides, so I've got 4f is 110. Divide both sides by 4. F gives me 27.5 degrees. Okay, and I'm finished with that. Now let's look at quadrilaterals. Again, read through the material on quadrilaterals in the textbook. I don't want to bore you by me just reading it out. Make sure you understand what each type of quadrilateral is: squares, rectangles, rhombus, parallelogram, kites, and trapeziums. So in this exercise we're finding the missing values below. Now when I look at this picture here, I can see that these two sides are the same, and I can also see that I've got 90-degree angles. I have no information about these two sides. Technically they could be equal to that. I mean, it doesn't look like it, it's not drawn to scale, but I know that at least I have here is a rectangle. Okay, remembering though that a square is a rectangle, it's a rectangle with 4 equal sides. So I know that these two sides must be equal. Okay, so A equals 5 centimeters and its opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. Okay, next one, we're dealing with a rhombus. Okay, how do I know that? I've got 4 sides are equal. We have the slants here, so that would be parallel to that, and that would be parallel to that. Okay, so what do I know about B? Well, B has to be 90 degrees because the diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular. And that's in the definitions in your textbook. It's a bit like a spelling lesson, this module. Okay, next one. What am I dealing with here? I've got a kite because I have the opposite sides here are equal, or adjacent sides I should say. They're next to each other. These adjacent sides are equal. Okay, so that means that that D there has to be 100 degrees. And it's because it's opposite sides, opposite angles of a kite are equal. Okay. Last one, I just have a quadrilateral here, and the angles in a quadrilateral add up to 360 degrees. So D plus 55 plus 47 has to be 360 degrees. 2D plus 102 has to be 360 degrees. Take 102 from both sides, so 2D equals 258 degrees. Divide both sides by 2, so D has to be 129 degrees. And my reasoning: angles in a quadrilateral add to 360 degrees. Okay. Next, read through the material on circles in the textbook. There's a lot of information there about different types of circles that you need to understand. In particular, what a circle is, concentric circles, radius, diameter, chord. Okay, what's a semicircle, what's an arc, what's a segment, what's a sector. Okay, so read through that and understand it. What now? Well, there's 3 exercises to complete: Geometry C1, Geometry C2, and Geometry C3.